Let me just check. That's all good.
Can
you still hear me when we've gone live? Is that all good?
I can hear you. I can, Eleanor. No problem at all.
Brilliant. Well, George, you know what as well? First of all, loving all the branding. This is top mark brand. You know, this is aspirational stuff that you're showing here.
Got the brand in there. Yes.
I need to think bigger on this branding thing. That is very good. Joe, thank you so much for coming on Another Door today. It's such an honour to have you here.
It's a pleasure. It really is a privilege, and I do enjoy it. It's it's amazing. Ever since writing the book, my life has changed.
I bet. Well, reinvented. That's the whole theme of this festival. And I was thinking that when I was reading it, just finished reading this amazing book, and I was thinking, what an amazing experience you must be having. Again, reliving all of that, but also reinventing yourself as an author and a speaker, you know, a motivational speaker. That's a reinvention in itself. So it must be kind of fascinating. Are you enjoying it?
I'm absolutely delighted. It's a fantastic experience. It's totally new to me.
Yeah.
I've done some speaking, but mainly it was really, this is Reebok, not Joe Foster. This is Reebok, Joe Foster. So it was very important for me to make sure Reebok, everybody picked up the name, got into it, not getting into Joe Foster. You know, Reebok has got to live, and it's got to be something, be global. And, oh yeah, so speaking, doing motivational speaking, I didn't expect that.
Yeah. Just came along, an opportunity. You know what, that's a really good point you made though, because identity is so important in reinvention, and knowing what you're trying to do and what you're trying to get out of something is huge. And that's what actually struck me in this book, was you didn't make it about yourself at any point. It was, as you just said, well, it was about Mercury, was it? And then it was about Reebok, and it was that obsession, wasn't it, of just making it big, and particularly in America.
Well, yeah, I think that started with changing our name from Mercury to Reebok.
Yeah.
That when we were told we couldn't use Mercury because it was pre-registered, and I had to go along and see an agent, and he'd shown me Kodak, fake Kodak, made by somebody. You know the story of how we found Reebok. But when I went to the agent, and he said, bring 10 names. And I'm looking at him, how can you have 10 names? And I said, look, when we gave up Reebok, I put Reebok at the top and I said, look, we need this. We've got to be in love with it. It's our emotion. It has to be, because we're going to live this. And if we're going to do anything with it, we really have to be in love with it.
Yeah.
Well, luckily it came out as the only one we could use. But, yeah. So, well, there's a lot of luck in that book.
There is a lot of luck.
A lot of luck.
But I would also say there's a lot of determination. And that was something that struck me again. You know, I work with people who are trying to reinvent themselves, and they're going to try and take this leap into a different world. Sometimes it's forced, or sometimes you have to. Like your example there, you know, you had to reinvent yourselves because of a situation you guys were in, and you embraced it. You said, right, how can we make it better? And that's what I took from your book, that each time you got a setback, you actually tried to upgrade. I don't know if you were conscious about that, but it's how it felt.
At the time, no. I think, you know, if you're an optimist, you know, if your glass is always half full, I think you're ready to take the next step. You don't have to think about it. You're just ready. And, you know, even now I'm still an optimist. We're going to get Shoemaker to #1, or to certainly a bestseller in America. That's the big market. You know, it's the big market for me. So, yeah, that's the next challenge.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that need doing, and we're doing it. I'm meeting a lot of people like yourself, young people, and because podcasting, you know, this new universe that we're in now, it's amazing, and what an opportunity it gives. Well, it gives me an opportunity because I can meet a lot of people, and they are mainly young people, because that's where life begins.
Yeah.
And in any business and in any challenge, when you're young, you're ready for it.
Well, that is a very good point. Are you ready for it? Because One of your messages is about just keep going. And one of the things that struck me was actually just keep going and going and going and going.
And going.
It's not exactly, that's the message. And it's really hard sometimes to hold on and to keep believing in yourself and giving that feel. What's your sort of advice to people when they are trying to do something new? Because it's not like just have one bad day and then you'll be all right. It's constant things coming at you, isn't it?
Well, I think we go back to where we started, and that is belief in your product, belief in what you're doing. And if you believe in that, and you feel in love with it, you don't give up love very easily. You fight for that, don't you? And so when it came to Reebok, it was, no, we don't give up. And, that never entered our minds, certainly never entered my mind. Jeff loved the factory. All he wanted to do was to make shoes. He loved the factory. And that was good. Because he said, Joe, I'll do the factory. You do everything else. That's yours. Well, you've read of the number of mistakes I did, the number of failures. And, but it's a question of saying, Jeff's working hard in the factory. I've got to keep going.
Yeah.
I've got to keep pushing this. So, yes, it's always been in my sort of psyche, I suppose. And I think of my grandfather. And, when Jeff and I left the foster family and the business, we knew very little about grandfather. Surprisingly, we knew very little. It's only when we got a bit bigger and we managed to spend a bit of money, and we put one guy just on dig into the history, and we found an awful lot. I now have a big folder, about 4 inches thick, with all the advertisements that he was making in those days. Incredible. So I think, in my psyche, it was, you do just keep going. And, the words are something that comes later.
Yeah.
The thing that you do is you just go ahead and you do keep going, especially when things get a bit tougher. Imagination is good, because, we were faced with having to change our name, and we had the imagination to do it. And then we were only 5 years into our business when Adidas wrote us a letter, or at least the lawyer did, to say that what we had then was 2 stripes and a T-bar. And they said this infringed the 3 stripes. Well, we could argue the fact that we were really, 5 minutes, it was like, then, just a minute, Adidas know we're here. We're only a small company, and they feel they should write us a letter. They feel they should threaten us. That's great. What do we do? We change the design, don't we? Well, let's change our silhouette. And you see it behind me. It became the Vector. So, 2 pieces of love. Was Reebok a better name than Mercury? Was our latest silhouette, the Vector, better than the T-bar and 2 stripes? Probably more distinctive.
Yeah.
Therefore, the visibility is going to be better. People are going to see something different. And, that's a step forward.
Yeah. That's what struck me, that moment that, the story that you tell is so articulate. You can really feel it when you read it. You can sense you sitting at your desk and getting this letter, and love the fact you reframed it. How many people get these moments, especially when they're starting a business or they're trying to do something, and you get these moments of like, oh my goodness, how are we going to get through this? This is big. But as you described, you were like, wow, they feel threatened by us. They feel like they've paid us attention. How amazing is that? Do you have to work on that? Does that come naturally, that you can see opportunity? Or, is there some times when you've got to dig deep for it?
Well, I'm not a boxer. I would think it's something like a boxer getting knocked on the floor. He either lies there and gets counted out, or he gets up and thinks, I don't know, I could change this. Look at this a bit differently. I'll watch out for that again. And go a different way about what he's doing. Because if he goes the same way about what he's doing, he's going to get knocked down again. So, you have the attitude that, okay, this is not something that you go head on. No, we don't have that sort of money. We don't have that. We don't have that sort of time either. So no, we'll go around. It was easier to go around the problem than to try and confront it. because
Yeah.
you know it's probably a better logo that we ended up with. And so sometimes challenge you to think again, a bit of reinvention again, I suppose. I mean, I never thought these things were reinvention. In fact, you talk about reinvention made me think, what is reinvention?
Yeah.
And really, it's taking the next step. You know,
Yeah.
whether somebody tells you, whether you take it in voluntarily, whether you have to take it, and on most of the occasions. And I think that writing the book actually reinvented me. I don't think, I just wrote a book. Okay, you write a book, and why do you write a book? Well, I've been lying around on a nice sort of in Tenerife, lying there, taking in the sun. A few people said, why don't you write your story? But, we're getting more and more into computers. Now I'm looking at Wikipedia, and I'm looking at Google, and people are telling me how Reebok started. And there's also a photograph of, this is Joe Foster, the founder of Reebok. No idea who it was. No idea. And I thought, well, I know where it started, and they can have my photograph if I want to know who. So I think that was the big influence that made me write the book. I'll tell them, this is how it started. I can only tell my part of the story. And what I have found out, it's amazing that there are a few people in Reebok telling their part of the story. And they're all different. I'll tell a different story.
Yeah. All different versions.
Yeah, it's whatever is your take on the story. But it's incredible. But, the thing is, they're all right.
Yeah.
Because we all come from different directions.
Yeah.
And you've got to meet people. That's the essence of it. To get Reebok big, I couldn't do that. It took me 11 years to get into America. From 1968 to 1979. It took me 11 years and so many failures. So many times I had to get up and keep going. Get up and keep going.
Yeah.
Find the answer. The answer to America is to find what they call it the hook. It's either pull or push. And if you try and push something, it's difficult. If it gets pulled, so you've got to find how can it get pulled? That's the hook. And our 5-star shoe, that got us into America. That was the start. So, and it's keep changing. Just make sure that you see the changes and keep changing with it.
The other thing as well with that is I think you took, I don't know, what's your take on it? To me, when I was reading it, I felt like you took calculated risk. There was a lot of kind of intuition, it felt like, when Angel came along with that, he'd observed the aerobics. I mean, that was a risk in many ways, but you were like, okay, let's go with it. Did it feel calculated? Did it feel like you were just kind of trying stuff and not knowing where it was going to go?
Well, if you don't try stuff all through your life, you have to try stuff. Some things work, some things don't work. But, things not working and things failing, that's just a lesson. That's just, okay, we learn this, we learn this. And to be successful, you just have to take risks. Entrepreneur is another word for risk. This is just for a risk taker. It's an entrepreneur. Because how many people have taken this and not made it? Only when you make it, somebody calls you an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. But actually, you could have been just trying and just not quite connecting all this time.
Yeah, absolutely. We could have missed it probably a million times. But, it's reset, try again. And providing you have the goal in mind, and the goal can be achievement. It doesn't necessarily say what you're achieving. But for us, it was to get into the American market and become a brand which was recognized and now loved. A lot of people love the brand.
Yeah.
Almost as much as me.
Yeah, maybe not quite as much as you. But yeah, absolutely. That's what comes through. I think as well, the interesting thing was, as well as taking those risks, as well as kind of going with intuition, going, yeah, why not? Let's try it. There was a lot of moments where it almost tested you, like, how much do you want this? Again, that's what came across. Tests when you just think, could just give up now. What am I doing? How do you get through that? There's probably a lot of people listening that have these moments of just giving up.
Well, I never felt like giving up. I guess that it's that optimism again, that next step, climbing the mountain until you get to the top. And it's like, as far as I was concerned, it's running a race. And the race isn't over until you've won.
Yeah.
You know? So to win, you've got to keep beating. You've got to keep beating yourself. And until we won, until we were number one. You know? We've beaten Addis, we've beaten Nike, we were number one. Okay, didn't stay for too long. And I retired when we were number one, which is, you get to a certain size where you decide, no, I can climb so far up the mountain and somebody else has to take me the rest of the way.
Yeah.
And there's somebody has to leave because, that has to happen. And I think you decide, where's your level? We got a ton of lawyers and so many accountants and a lot of people in between who could sell boxes and boxes, who could make them and build them. You're only one little piece of a cog. And the best thing I can do is to encourage people. Is to let people know the love, the brand, make them part of it.
Yeah.
People have to have ownership. They have to feel ownership. And I think if they do that, they work their socks off, they work their heart out to make sure that they do the best. And like me, they make mistakes.
Yeah.
Things are wrong. But when you're leading, it's a bit like, unfortunately, Boris Johnson at the moment with COVID. Leading from the front is difficult because it's what's around the next bend. Fortunately, there was nobody there to keep criticising me like Boris was. You just have to keep going.
Yeah. I think the other thing as well, which crossed my mind when I was reading, was the mountain analogy. So, getting to the top of the mountain, but you were enjoying the climb. I got the impression that even if you hadn't made number one ever, I mean, who knows? It might have felt like a disappointment, but it felt like you'd enjoyed all of this experience and understood that it was all part of it. It's maybe not just about the goal sometimes. What's maybe that's the way I was reading it. Obviously, that was my interpretation. But how did it feel? That journey.
There's not only one goal. The goals, you achieve them en route. You get to a goal. You achieve a goal, then you achieve it. Getting into America, that for me was one of the big achievements. That was a goal. I reached the goal. If that was the top of the mountain, then that was the top of the mountain. But we could see beyond.
Yes.
Opportunities are beyond. And when opportunities are for the next mountain, then you do keep going. And you seize these opportunities. And it was fabulous. That journey that I took was incredible. I can value it now. Difficult when you're there because you just can't see. You're blinkered. You're just going. What is the next step? Is it Monte Carlo and all the film stars? We're going there. We're doing different things. So there are different success points. There are different goals that you reach. And like you say, had it not gone to number one, where Reebok is now. Reebok is quite small after a very tough time of 20 odd years. And the opportunities are there. People are saying, well, where should Reebok go now? And I usually ask the person who asks that question, how old are you? And they usually come back with 25. You tell me, you're the ones now. This is your journey. I can sit and watch you. Well, really, this is your journey. If you're young, and I think of what you're about now. Reinvention is really better when you're young than when you're old. More difficult the older you get. You get more protective. You stepping out too far when you're a bit older is not good because the young kids run past you.
That's really interesting. That's interesting you saying that. You're a prime example of actually age doesn't matter. You're out there reinventing yourself as a speaker and an author. So that's interesting that you have to work through what you've just talked about there.
But the author and the speaker, it's difficult to do when you're in your early 20s.
Yeah.
You've nothing to speak about. And what have you done? You're still to do it.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge of life. That's the brilliant challenge. You've got that journey to make. And it's up to you. You know, take the chances, make the journey. And there are a lot of people who give you tons of advice. You don't need advice from me. Read the book and take what you can from it. And if you want to
Yeah.
ask me how I did it, fine. But I can't tell you how you can do it. It's your choices, your steps. All I could say is be enthusiastic. Believe in what you do. Have imagination. Sometimes that imagination, you can talk to people and say, what are you talking about? That's impossible. There are so many things, such as this. When I started out, we didn't have a mobile phone.
Yeah.
And when I arrived in whatever city I arrived in, whatever hotel, I had to go through reception and through the telephonist to get a call in. And they wouldn't connect me. They'd say, we'll call you back. So they had to do all the... So communication was so difficult. For me, it was a handful of American Express travelers' checks and an airplane.
Yeah.
And I had to go places. And yeah, it meant traveling, and some of the travel was a bit, well, not nice, but basically, I don't think I ever had the attitude that travel was going to be difficult or travel was anything less than another experience.
Yeah. 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 That's the point, isn't it? Take everything as experience, take it all in, not put that kind of pressure on yourself to work it all out immediately and kind of go with it. Another part of the book, which I thought was really interesting, is your reflections. Like, it almost felt like you were in do mode all this time, constantly like, okay, rethinking. And it felt like the only moment that you sat there and went, what the heck, was when you were at Monte Carlo. And you were surrounded by all these celebrities and things, and they wanted to come and talk to you. And that was the first time in the book you sort of acknowledged, like, you were sitting there going, what have I done? And that was incredible, because I think, in what we do, our work we do, we try and get people to reflect quite a lot and just give yourself time to absorb it and don't be in the do. But it struck me like, wow, that's the first time Joe's kind of reflected.
Well, you achieve what you achieve, but you watch things on television outside of Hollywood. These things, that's a difference. It's a whole different life away from you. It's not what you expect, but when your wife can stand there and get a photograph stood in between Sean Connery and Roger Moore,
Yeah.
I think this is crazy. And Sean Connery in front of me in the lineup for lunch. He's talking to his wife. Have you got the tickets? And I think, who's going to give you lunch, Sean?
Yeah.
And I had to tell him. I said, "Don't worry, Sean. It won't be a problem for you."
But then he was probably the same. He's probably thinking, oh yeah, sometimes I forget.
Yeah, so these people are quite normal people. It's surprising. They really.
Yeah.
And I mean, John Forsyth, he always turned up at everything. And
Yeah.
I think it's in the book. Only the second time that I was to meet him, and it was in the Hotel de Paris, a big event that we had. Everybody was there, and he came up to me and said, "Hello, Joe." And I said, "John, you should remember my name." I mean, I can't remember your name. Oh, Eleanor, that's it. I said, "How do you do that?" And all he said was, "Joe, that's my job." And then he realised that, yes, his job is learning, being able to do the right thing. So, and I just think it was such an honour to be able to sort of meet a lot of these people who were so impressive, and you saw them on television week in, week out, incredible.
Yeah.
So those are, because people have asked me, how did you manage to write the book? Did you keep a diary? And I said, no. I said, it would have helped if I kept a diary.
Yeah.
Because I would have got the chronological order easier. As it is, I had to work hard on the chronological part of it. But I said, when you've stepped onto the floor of Ginger Rogers' house, when you met Prince Rainier in Paris, and you don't forget. And this applied to so many things that we did. I must have forgotten a ton of stuff. It's probably a good job, otherwise the book wouldn't have been finished by now.
Still adding.
It would just keep going. But no, you don't forget these things. You know, they're indelibly imprinted. You feel so privileged that this has happened. And all we were doing was making running shoes. But, you know, life, and this can happen to anybody. You know, it can. It's just, you've got to keep taking the turns. You know, when there's a fork in the road, we'll go this way.
I love that. I think as well, the other thing that crossed my mind was actually the people with you on the whole journey. And at the end of the book, you really acknowledge people the whole way through. And sometimes it's easy to forget people at the beginning, or, you know, not treat people, understand what the role that they're playing in your success. And I found that was really nice, that kind of part at the end where you really bring it all back, really, and bring people in and really acknowledge it. How important is it to have sort of the right people around you?
Essential. Absolutely essential. You know, meeting people, and you've read through me meeting John Willie Johnson, you know, such an amazing guy. You know, how he could do what he did and meet all his people and talk to them with the first name. How do you do? And know the family. You know, and then, you know, just give me machinery, and it was great. And the stories he could tell as we drove down to those auctions, you know, he could talk forever about the stories and this and this. And so, you know, it was somebody you could listen to. You know, somebody all the time, you could listen to these stories and enjoy it. You didn't need to speak, you just needed to listen. And I think this is one of the things you really should learn about, that's listening. And I think a good leader listens more than he gets up there and starts to preach. You know, you should listen, because a lot of people who then, you should be more of a guide to people than sort of an inspiration, rather than somebody who's wagging a finger and telling people what we should do. You know, that's what's got to happen.
Yeah,
People.
that's so important. Oh, my daughter's just come in now.
I heard her.
Oh, thank you. Just finishing this chat, darling. School holidays, nice to juggle.
Anyway, I got you a magazine.
Thank you. Oh yes, oh yeah. You see, there you go. Tests are given to us as gifts to see what you're going to do with it. So, Joe, before we finish, I wonder if people listening today, obviously reinvention, all sorts of circumstances at the moment for people. Some people having to reinvent their business because it's no longer viable. They've had to change it because of lockdown, or just, you know, markets are changing. Individuals are wanting to do something new. They've realised they just don't want to do what they're doing anymore. What's your advice for somebody listening and they want to bring in change into their life?
Well, if they can't improve, or if they can't continue, as I did, continue with it, then do change. Do look around, and don't be afraid. Don't take too much advice either, because advice will probably stop you from doing it. You know, help. Okay, help. If you want something and somebody can help you with it, fine. But advice is different. You know, follow your own spirit, follow your own feelings that you do. And I have a very good example of that, and that was Paul Fireman himself. When I met Paul Fireman, he, his brother, and his brother-in-law were operating Boston Camping, a small wholesale camping business in Boston, of course. And I could tell by his attitude, I hated this. So I eventually put him on. We got a 5-star shoe. He became the distributor in America. And the next time I went across, and I said, well, where is everybody? Boston Camping did finish. He just wiped it out, and he started Reebok. So, you know, that's an example of whatever he was doing wasn't working for him. So they just stopped the business totally. I thought it would be some bolt-on, that we would just sort of, you know, be a sideline and then we would all. I thought, no. So he made a good success in America. He was dynamite in America, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, you know, you do change. And
that was a Great example of that, though, wasn't it? Where that moment that you turned up and it had all gone.
Yeah.
He literally cleared space out of his life, probably something that he'd been working on, to bring in something new. It was very powerful.
Yeah. And would it work? He didn't know.
Yeah.
He didn't know it would work. But, he was hungry.
Yeah.
And in America, they say you've got wrinkles in your belly. That makes you hungry. Hello. And he was very hungry.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that took him through some challenges, very serious challenges.
Yeah.
And it's in the book, we needed finance, and it's tough. And if you've got demand for something and you can't, you're going to starve the business, you lose the business. So
Yeah.
I think he's an example, a direct example of if you've got to change, and believe in yourself.
Yeah. Absolutely love that. Thank you so much, Joe. I can't believe that was half an hour. That was like a race through. I can't recommend the book enough. I loved it. As I say, I started it, and it says on the back, this is a different book. This is not, your usual story. And I thought, okay. And it really isn't. I mean, give yourself a couple of days just to keep reading until you've finished it, because it's very addictive. So thank you so much for your time. It's really appreciated. And recommend the book to everyone. Shoemaker by Joe Foster. Thank you,
That's it.
Joe.
You can
Have
buy
a
it.
great day.
Yes.
Yes,
Thank you.
buy it everywhere. Yes.
Thank you, Alan. It's been a pleasure. It really has. And good luck. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very
For
much.
listening. Good luck if you're going to change. Get on.
Get on with it. I love that. So I'm going to have that written on a post-it note. Joe Foster says, get on with it. Thank you, Joe.
It's a pleasure. Thank you. Bye-bye then.